having no head. There's an instruction Sam Harris uses, one he attributes to Douglas Harding, of looking for your head and not finding it. The first time I heard that instruction, I didn't get it, but I'm going to try and let you in on the correct way to interrogate that instruction, how to follow it, and try to alleviate some confusion. So let's sit on the couch, put in our earbuds, put down our phone, and let's look out the window at something where our attention naturally lands. First off, you're either going to get the instruction or not, and you can't make anything happen through effort. If the experience is recognized, the following moments will likely collapse around the self, and the thought, was that it? If it's not recognized, there will likely be subsequent frustration. But let me set this up for you. If you did the last exercise, focusing attention on the sensations of the forehead from the starting point of the visual field, that will be helpful. That exercise hopefully revealed that there are two starting points when recognizing the sensations of the forehead. The first is from an intuitive perspective of a self in the head, over here, away from the object. That's the typical perspective, one that's easily spotted. And here's how. If you're sitting on the couch and there's significant ownership intrinsic to the legs seen in the visual field below, that's the default. That's how you spot it. But there is a different starting point perspective, and that is from the conscious landscape. And my typical starting point is located in the visual field. Now that statement might appear odd at first, but it is surprisingly available. It just needs to be recognized once, so you get it. When we began the previous inspection of the sensations of the forehead, with attention starting from a point in the focused area of the visual field, here's why that makes all the difference. There can be a noticed change in the experience of the sensations. They're recognized as information, part of experience, rather than a typical ownership as our head. That's how Douglas Harding recognized the moment as having no head. He recognized the moment as experience, as attention was bouncing around the available landscape. And for that moment, the presupposition of there being a need for a head was muted. To be clear, information from either perspective is the same, but when starting from the visual field, the experience of the information is different. Again, the sensations collapsing around the concept of a head are muted. The conceptual packaging is muted. What's to be noticed is that there is the visual field with numbness and tingling, recognized as a diffuse pattern of sensations and energy that are in some way overlaying the visual field in relationship to the visual field. Again, there might be a brief recognition that experience does not necessitate the conceptual packaging of a head added, and there is just experience. Don't worry. After that brief recognition, collapsing around the self and the concept of a head will return. But that's the playbook for looking for your head and not finding it. Let's see if there can be a brief experience of that in the next few moments. As the visual field is focused on an object, let's make sure attention is additionally located in the focused area of the visual field. Notice something new about the object that wasn't initially recognized. Color, size, an edge, an area of contrast. Most people don't realize that there are two ways to focus on an object. The most common way is to have the visual field focused on the object, but still be collapsed around the sense of a self. They think, I'm looking at the object, and this is uninteresting. I don't get it. It takes significant concentration to break free of that. And the way I try to convey this is that when attention is no longer contracted around the self over here and is firmly located on the object is recognized to have a laser focus. There's no sense of distraction. That experience is definitely different. When attention is solidly on the object, it really feels like you've snapped out of it. You're awake, you're present, everything else is in the background of experience, at least for that moment. Get it? So is experience really focused on the object right now? If you're saying, sure, I'm looking at the object over there, you're doing the exercise wrong. You're not going to get it. If, however, you've noticed a thought more approximating, oh wow, I've been looking at that object for the last couple minutes and completely overlooked that feature. That's what I'm talking about. If so, notice from that moment of clarity, when laser focused on the object, the sensations associated with the head. Tingling, pressure, where the sensations are kind of hovering, diffuse in nature, without edges. Definitely different from the limitation of the conceptual packaging of a head. Now the collapse around the self, with a sense of me looking at the object, can quickly return. But with that understanding, let's try this one more time. Pick a new object to focus the visual field on. For just a moment, recognize the out-of-focus visual field. The expansive oval scene. With thousands of objects that could be focused on, but aren't. And again, let's recognize attention returning back to the object, a laser focus. Take a moment until there's some sort of realization similar to, oh wow, I've been kind of looking at that object for the last couple moments, and how did I overlook that characteristic until now? And when that happens, as the object in the visual field is laser focused, that's when to recognize sensations associated with the head. Are the sensations kind of hovering? Diffuse in nature? Without edges? Definitely not limited by a concept of a head? If for a moment there was just experience, free of the sense of a self in addition to knowing, that is something to build upon.